Welcome to the Drop the Mic Wrestling Podcast on Tobacco Road Sports Radio and TobaccoRoadSportsRadio.com as part of your Wrestling Wednesday card. I'm your host, Michael Davis. The WWE Draft is officially over, and superstars know where they will be for the foreseeable future, at least. And this kicks into effect after Backlash this Saturday. So I have a first-time guest in on the show, Chris Cox. Chris and I will be previewing this Saturday's Backlash, tell you what needs to happen with the championships in the post-draft era. And we're going to debut a new segment to be announced later on in this episode. You're not going to want to miss this. But for now, let's talk about the gold as Chris joins me right now on the Drop the Mic Wrestling Podcast. Chris, it's your first time as a Tobacco Road Sports Radio personality. How are you doing, man?
I'm doing good, man. I'm glad to be here. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to talk some WWE.
Yes, we are talking a lot of WWE today. And AEW, they're making some waves right now with, their pre-purchase for the All-In at London. We'll probably get into that a little bit more next week just because there is a lot going on in the wrestling world. I know AEW has Double or Nothing coming up too. So there will be time to talk about that. Don't worry. And you may also recognize Chris. He has a brother that is on Out of Pocket, and unfortunately, they're both Philadelphia Eagles fans. So, Chris, I don't know if we're going to be able to convert you away from your Eagles in the next hour. Do you think my chances are good?
They're pretty slim, I think. They're pretty slim. Next to nothing, I'd say, yeah.
Next to nothing? Mm-hmm. You know what? That's about the amount of chances I gave Cody at this year's WrestleMania.
Wow. Okay. All right. Already going with that. Okay. All right.
And
we'll see where we're at next year.
Okay. Well, you might have to wait a whole year for Cody Rhodes to win the world title.
In Philly? Hey, I'd take that. I'd take that every day.
Hey, if Roman versus Cody happens in Philly, are you getting tickets?
Yeah. Yes. I will be in Philly.
I don't know if I would put up with Philadelphia.
All right. We're getting a little off track here, I think.
Yeah, we'll wind it back in. Well, here's why Cody might have to wait a year. Well, in this draft on Friday SmackDown, the number one overall pick was Roman Reigns, Solo Sikoa, and Paul Heyman. They went to SmackDown. Monday, the Usos joined them. But Cody Rhodes was the next pick to Monday Night Raw. And now I understand the point of, like, if one show gets Roman, the biggest star, the other one gets the other biggest star in Cody. I understand that part. But, Chris, it looked like that WWE was moving towards allowing Cody to keep writing the story, to finish the story. He's wrestling Brock Lesnar. We'll get into that here in a little bit. It feels like they've already booked themselves into a hole in terms of Cody Rhodes wrestling Roman Reigns. But there's this World Heavyweight Championship that is going to be crowned here in a few weeks at Night of Champions. There's a lot of moving parts around there with the World Heavyweight title. Do you think it's the right move to put it on Cody?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I think Cody's return has been so enormous that I think he needs to be the one to dethrone Roman Reigns. I feel like giving him the World Heavyweight Champ belt is like giving him some kind of participation trophy, his like cancellation prize because he didn't beat him in, WrestleMania. I think the story's still being told, and I think there's also many other people who probably deserve it more than Cody, honestly. Some workhorses in the industry that, I don't know, Seth Rollins. I know we've talked about Seth Rollins maybe getting it, and, Drew McIntyre's talking about maybe leaving WWE, give him a little incentive to stick around. I don't know.
That would be interesting. I've thought about Seth Rollins. I think that's my favorite to win the title. He's done everything that you would want him to do. I totally agree with you. It feels like a consolation prize, unless you were going to do something where Cody wins the title and then there's another winner and take all next year WrestleMania. But I feel like that's just leaving a bad taste in fans' mouths. They don't want to see another winner take all situation.
Yeah, for sure. And I don't feel like I'm alone in saying that Cody is the guy. You know, he's the guy to come back, you know, after all these years. I know he's been back for 2 years now, but he's the guy to dethrone Roman, you know, and just give him. I feel like since we saw him lose, we have to see him build himself back up. With, you know, build himself back up into the champion that you know his father was, you know, Gold Dust was, I guess, you know, but he's got to get there, you know, and you got to start, you know, at the foot of the mountain.
You got to start at the very bottom of the mountain, work himself up. We're going to talk a little more about Rhodes Lesnar, World Heavyweight Champion. I'm saying Seth Rollins. Maybe, I don't know if I'd give it to Drew, though, because let's say you make him your inaugural World Heavyweight Champion, and then a year from now, he's at another place. Do you really want that in your trivia bank?
Probably not. I think Rollins is probably a great choice. I think, you know, Bobby Lashley could be a possible winner. Yeah, I don't know. It's good that we're so in the dark, you know.
And it leaves some speculation, some dream scenarios for who could be that World Heavyweight Champion. And along with the Drop the Mic Wrestling podcast, I also write for Sports Carolina Monthly as a pro wrestling beat writer. And so you will be able to read more about WWE's choices for who's going to be the inaugural World Heavyweight Champion. They'll crown it May 27th at Night of Champions in Saudi Arabia. But there are some other questions because on the other side of the coin, you know, you have your Raw challengers competing for the World Heavyweight title. Now Roman Reigns is kind of limited on SmackDown of who could be facing him. Looking at the SmackDown roster a little bit, who do you think could be next in line to challenge the Tribal Chief?
Man, I mean, I gotta say Jey Uso, you know?
Really?
I think it's coming. I think there's gonna be some earthquakes in the bloodline, you know? I think we're gearing up to see a possible Jey split. And I think he's coming for the undisputed WWE Universal Championship.
Really?
I do.
I don't know. This isn't Friday. This isn't out of pocket, but that's a pretty bold take with Jey Uso. And they've been teasing Jey Uso splitting, like
For
the
sure.
main event Jey Uso when Roman and Jey were initially having their battle a couple years ago. Man, would you be believable in terms of Jey Uso actually like dethroning? I know it doesn't happen. I know it'll eventually be Cody, but would you at least watch the story?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I mean, I love the Usos. It seems like Jey is a lot more interested in possibly leaving the bloodline than Jimmy, but I don't know. He seemed, especially after Monday Night's Raw, you know, who was it? Jimmy had his match against Riddle, and Solo never came out. And then later in the match, so spoilers for Monday Night Raw, you know, the title match for or the headliner for that Raw, you know, both Usos showed up for Solo against Seth Rollins. So it's like, where do your allegiances lie? You know, where are we going to be at in 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month? You know, who knows?
And that would be interesting. Bloodline has probably one of the best stories in wrestling's modern era. And everyone complains about Roman being a part-timer, this, that. He's not around all the time. You know, he is your tribal chief. He is your head of the table.
Listen, when he's actually you know, defending this title, these titles, plural, you know, maybe we could talk about him being my tribal chief. But in the meantime, once a pay-per-view, once every other pay-per-view, and I'm just not having it, you know.
Hey, he just shows up in the biggest moments, particularly at WrestleMania. And honestly, this is basically the banner back and forth Chris and I have with each other for You know, we have been having it for several months because he's such a big Roman Reigns guy, as you can tell.
Yeah, clearly.
Clearly. I feel like, and this is going to be interesting, I feel like we have legs on a potential Roman Reigns AJ Styles feud because AJ Styles got drafted with the OC to SmackDown. You know, LWO is also on SmackDown, but I don't see Rey Mysterio challenging Roman Reigns, especially with all the losses he's getting. AJ Styles would be somebody who could have that feud with Roman Reigns as long as the bloodline kind of stays intact for all of that.
Yeah, I mean, it's possible. I think, I mean, I hate to say it, but I think Austin Theory, we might see a return to challenge. You know, after the Money in the Bank, you know, fiasco, he kind of left a little disheartened. Then he got the U.S. you know championship title, and now he's on top of the world. You know, to be honest, I think he's grown a lot. I think give him a chance. A-Town down, baby.
A-Town down, dude. And I'm glad you brought that up because I couldn't stand the character he had last year, taking the selfies. It felt like a Tyler Breeze kind of thing where he's like, this is all good. It was just so, it was so gimmicky. It came across so corny. And then once Triple H took over and he had Austin Theory cash in the Money in the Bank on the United States title, I was like, what are you doing? Like, and you had him lose too. Like, that was the big point. But it really changed Austin Theory's character. That was the turning point for Theory. Now the United States title's on SmackDown, the Intercontinental title's on Raw. But what's on Raw technically right now are the undisputed WWE Tag Team titles. Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn, main event night 1, beating the Usos, beating the longest reign in WWE Tag Team title history. And Owens and Zayn both got drafted in Monday Night Raw. Well, the whole point of the World Heavyweight title was, well, Roman's going to stay exclusive to SmackDown. Raw needs a world champion. Well, now we have the tag teams where the tag team champions got drafted to Raw. Are they going to be able to defend on SmackDown? Then that defeats the purpose of a draft. So my question to you is, what should they do with these tag titles? Should each brand have their own separate set of tag team titles?
I think definitely, yeah. I think I mean, what's the point of having separate brands if, a tag team area of the separate brands if there's no title to win, Now, in terms of splitting up the titles, I think it's tough, I know we're about to see Riddle, Zayn, and Owens against the Usos and Solo at Backlash. Maybe something can come from that. Maybe it ends in a DQ or, something happens so that one title ends up going back with the Usos. One stays with Sami Zayn, and I don't know. We'll see. It's hard to tell,
It's hard to tell. It would, to me, it'd kind of defeat the purpose and doing the draft. And I know there's not a lot of tag teams right now, but you have Pre-Deadly drafted to SmackDown. You have the LWO. You have the OC with Carl Anderson, Luke Gallows. Like, you have tag teams on SmackDown. You have the Usos. Mm-hmm. I mean, Raw, you have Owens and Zayn. You have Alpha Academy. I didn't even mention the Street Profits on SmackDown. They're still a tag team after they were rumored to split up. Like, there's a lot of stuff you can do. And the title dilemma, they put themselves in a hole with a lot of this stuff. The Raw and SmackDown women's champions are now on opposite brands. SmackDown women's champion Rhea Ripley on Monday Night Raw. Raw women's champion Bianca Belair on SmackDown. How do you fix this? I know we're going to talk a little bit about their title matches this Saturday. Rhea's facing Zelina for the SmackDown women's title. Bianca Belair's wrestling Io Sky for the Raw women's title. How do you unify the titles even and take away a title from the women's division? Like, I'm stuck on this. Or are you just going to hand the belts off like they've done in the past.
You know, that's probably the easiest answer. It's kind of the most boring answer, the least entertaining, I should say. You know, it's tough. You know, it is very. They put themselves in a tough situation. You know, both Rhea and Bianca have a match at Backlash. Maybe something comes from that. Even though I don't think. Let's see. If Bianca loses, the title would return to SmackDown. But I think. Sorry. If Rhea loses, if Rhea loses,
title goes back to SmackDown.
It returns back to SmackDown, yeah. But you know, both Bianca and Io are both on SmackDown,
right? Because they
so it's like
Damage Control went to SmackDown. See,
yeah.
they've booked themselves in a hole.
Mm-hmm. It's hard, dude. And I know we saw there's reports about Damage Control maybe being broken up. Obviously, that didn't happen.
Yet.
You know, they all got yeah. But the reports were saying one would go to Raw, one would go to SmackDown, one would go to NXT, where it's like, I don't know, maybe something results after SmackDown. Maybe Bianca loses the title and Io feels like she's a bit, you know, too good for Damage Control. Who's to say?
I really hope they don't split up Damage Control. It's been one of my highlights ever since SummerSlam and Dakota Kai, Io Sky returned. My only recommendation, I would have kept the Io Shirai name that Io once had. I just thought it sounded better. But that's only if I was booking the show. Now, we tease a little segment, and Chris and I were brainstorming. We were, I believe we were watching Monday Night Raw or maybe playing some WWE 2K where I was demolishing you in the game. That's the only reason I invited you on the show was to mention
Listen. I don't get nearly as much, you know, practice time, you know?
I don't get practice time.
Yeah, whatever.
I'm pretty bad at video games. I don't have any time on my hands whatsoever to play video games. What are you talking about? I really don't with all the stuff I'm doing right now. But we were brainstorming this idea, and we were like, let's do this. Let's have a segment on the show to where we kind of put our general manager hats on. Last week did a live mock draft with Shan Smith that you can go back and watch. Honestly, I think I drafted a better roster than the actual rosters combined, but that's a story for another time. If we feel like we can do it better, why not? Let's do it. And this segment is going to be titled Book It Better. And the purpose of this segment is we're going to take a circumstance. We're going to take a superstar or storyline, a group. Like we're going to pinpoint something in the past, something currently happening, something maybe in the future where we're like, hey, here is the direction I would take it. Because there's a lot of things that have good creative behind it. The Bloodline, for example, that story's been doing really good for 3 years. I would challenge anybody to come up and say, hey, I could do it better because they've been on fire. And then there's other things where you're like, really? Nah, let's fix this real quick. And so I mentioned this, I believe, on last week's show, and Chris actually called me out on it about maybe doing general managers. I was with Tyler Sr. from the Stash House podcast and brought up the idea of Xavier Woods potentially being one of the general managers while Kofi's hurt, while Big E is hurt. And you kind of push back on that idea. Why?
Man, I just feel like Xavier Woods is such a unique talent that he's in a super unique position right now too. He's the New Day, but he's like nobody's around him. You know, the New Day is this beaming positivity. These 3 guys to 2 guys to 1 guy. You know, I mean, all that positivity. I don't know how positive he's looking now. You know. Especially after 2 weeks ago, SmackDown, Gunther, loses. Xavier Woods loses to Gunther for the man, I don't know. Yeah, intercontinental title, and it's like they're just doing Xavier Woods dirty. You know, I feel like he's alone. He's just not getting good matches. He's not getting any matches really. It's I don't know. Maybe it's time for a turn.
A turn, like a heel turn.
Yeah, man.
Dude, that would be pretty crazy because like Xavier Woods is the only one right now. He and Kofi both got drafted to Raw. We don't know when Kofi Kingston's going to be returning in ring, but I don't know, man. And you don't know what's going to happen with Big E. I feel like that's the question too. So I wanted to pitch this to you. You may have a different idea, and I will say I booked it better. Whatever.
Okay.
But you're like, calm down. So let's have this. Let's have Xavier Woods be the general manager. Okay. Triple H comes out and announces, hey, Friday Night SmackDown gets a general manager. It's Xavier Woods. Or, let's give Tyler Breeze SmackDown. Okay. Xavier Woods gets Raw. We'll stick to the New Day getting drafted to Monday Night Raw, even though whatever. So for the next few months, Xavier Woods is general manager. He has some interactions with Kofi Kingston backstage, saying, hey, I can't show bias. I'm the general manager. I got to do what's best for business. That old tagline with Triple H. And then when Big E's healthy and Big E's ready, Big E comes back to Monday Night Raw. And actually, everyone's excited about Big E, but turns on Kofi Kingston. They have a feud. Xavier Woods doesn't want to put them up against each other, but has no choice. Xavier even referees the match as the general manager. And then, after that's done, they get all that bad blood out. They're like, you know what? We were this positive group. We were best friends at one time. We relied on each other to survive in this business. Why don't we reunite the New Day stronger and better than ever? And at the very least, it gives them a story to where fans can now get reinvested into the New Day. But it will take Xavier Woods being as the general manager, much like he is in WWE 2K right now.
I think it's definitely a fun idea. It gives Xavier Woods a storyline that he hasn't had in a long time. But I was thinking more. Xavier Woods is definitely he's an on-screen talent. He's good on the mic. He can cut a promo, but he's also pretty good in the ring. And I just feel like we got to see him in the ring. And I think a heel turn could really bring out something in Xavier that we haven't really seen yet.
So when
I think it'd be fun. Yeah, go ahead.
So when he turns heel, are you turning him a heel and having him feud with Kofi Kingston?
I think it depends. It depends how long Kofi's out. If I think it'd be fun if Xavier's like not really sure if he wants to go into this life of evil or negativity, so to speak. Maybe he shops around, maybe looking at other heel groups. Maybe he's has a little stint with the Judgment Day, little stint with the Usos. Maybe, I don't know. And until Kofi comes back, he's like, Kofi is ready to start New Day back up, but Xavier is just not having it. No positivity left. And feud with Kofi until Kofi has to bring out the big guns, and Big E in his return. Assuming he returns, hopefully he returns.
So Kofi brings back Big E. Mm-hmm. What would happen next?
Well, I think maybe a Kofi Xavier kind of match, and I don't know, maybe they realize, halfway toward to the end of the match, they're like, why are we doing this? We're best friends. Kofi gets through to him. He's like, I'm not going to pin you, man. I can't do it. We're best friends. We were once a source, you know, of good. And now what have you become? Come back. Forget all of this, you know? And then maybe Big E comes out. Maybe Big E's reffing the match, you know? That'd be fun. I don't know.
Dude, that and it feels like we're circling around kind of the same premise too. Like we've gotten the New Day as a group. We need to have some sort of singles match. I feel like that's innate in fans. Like fans wanted a Shield match with Ambrose, Rollins, Reigns. Like we want secretly Montez Ford versus Angelo Dawkins. Like we want Jey Uso versus Roman Reigns. Like we want these guys who are like allies to actually like, hey, what would happen if they collided in the ring? As long as like, especially both of us were like, hey, we need to end with the New Day actually coming back together and being strong.
A new day, you know, a new day for the New Day.
Dude, that should be a tagline on a post.
There you go.
I got to keep that in mind for the social media aspect. And just a reminder that you can follow the Drop the Mic Wrestling podcast on Facebook, on Instagram. That's our Insta handle at Drop the Mic Wrestling. If you're watching on the YouTube channel, the Tobacco Road Sports Radio's YouTube channel, they're on Facebook and they're on Instagram too. And I will also be live Friday, 4 o'clock for Out of Pocket with Michael Davis. You can interact and engage with the show. I'm super, super happy about just all the positive feedback we got from doing a live show for Out of Pocket. And we used to do Drop the Mic Live, and Out of Pocket Live just blew my expectations out of the water. So couldn't have done it without legit any of you guys watching in, tuning in, supporting. And if you want to keep supporting, subscribe to the Tobacco Road Sports Radio's YouTube channel. If you're already subscribing, you're like, hey, how can I support? Well, share that with your friends so they can keep getting the good content with Out of Pocket, with the Cat Cave, with Ryan Frick, and with Drop the Mic Wrestling podcast with good guests like Chris, which, Chris, I heard you had, correct me if I'm wrong, I heard you had a little scenario to throw by me as we stick to the Book It Better segment.
Yeah, man. Just a fun little storyline. It's a throwback kind of. It involves one Dominic Mysterio, and this assumes that maybe the Judgment Day have kind of fizzled out, gone their separate ways. You know, what happens to Dom? And I think that Dom should return to the LWO. In a specifically, well, we'll get there. I think Dom already is, in story, right? He's Eddie's biological son. He already does a lot of Eddie's stuff. He's got the classic Three Amigos. He does the, yep. And he's got the mullet. He's very Eddie Guerrero. And who started LWO back in the day? Eddie Guerrero. So who's the rightful heir to LWO? Who's to say? And I think it'd be fun to see maybe Dominic has to earn the respect of the current LWO members. And he's such a, his feud with Ray is so strong, even now, even after, WrestleMania, they're still butting heads constantly. Why not keep that going, And I think this should culminate in a ladder match for the custody of the LWO. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Oh, man. Oh, wow. The custody of the LWO. Wow.
Yeah, man. It's a throwback, Throwback, it's what back in the day it was it was a silly match, but it's a classic,
Man, I recently took one of my friends. He's not a wrestling fan by any means. He was just going to support one of his friends. I took him to a wrestling event recently, and he was asking about who are the good guys, who are the bad guys, kind of like, why should I invest in these characters and everything. He's like, so I know some like good guys like Rey Mysterio and this and that one, like naming some bad guys. I just started like talking about Rey Mysterio and who he's feuded with, and mentioned the SummerSlam 2005 and where Eddie Guerrero and Rey Mysterio had the custody of Dominic ladder match. And maybe they could do something weird where it's like, I don't know, like going off your idea, have the custody of LWO ladder match and Dominic versus Rey, and you know, who comes to try to shake the ladder? Santos Escobar. Like,
that'd be good. That'd be hilarious. Yeah, man.
Like, you could do so much with that.
It would be a great, if this is further down the line, it'd be a great, retirement, match. This is, Rey's last match. Rey ends up losing. He puts his son in charge of the LWO. Maybe we see him a slight heel turn for Rey. Becomes a little bit more possessive of Eddie's, legacy. And I don't know, we get to see the return of babyface Dom.
I don't know if we'll ever see the return of babyface Dom.
Man,
we watched Raw.
He's got heat.
He can't talk without getting booed. And when he tries to talk over the boos, they just get louder. Yeah. So I know I've put you on the spot right here with this one, but just thinking about, like, Roman Reigns doesn't get those boos. MJF doesn't get those boos. Dominic Mysterio gets the heat and the boos. He knows how to play with the crowd at such a young age. I kind of think he's the best heel in the game right now.
He's one of the best, if not the best. Yeah, for sure. He's got some work. I think he's got some time to I don't know. He's fumbling through a lot of promos, and he's not got the size that I think he really needs to be the ultimate heel. But I think he's well on his way, and he's still a young guy. I think this is the beginning of a phenomenal heel in the making. Maybe the best.
If he gets getting this heat right now, he's going to be good. He just turned 26 last month, born April 97, April 5th, if you will. So we're like a couple days away from 26 years and 1 month old for Dominic. And it's really impressive how much he's grown since being with Judgment Day, and how much Judgment Day's grown since Dominic Mysterio joined them. Like, they've really bounced well off of each other. So that's going to be big. What's also going to be big is it's going to be a big weekend for the Judgment Day, because now we get to finally talk about this Backlash pay-per-view. It's going to be Saturday night. You can watch on Peacock while they keep their premium live events on the Peacock network. Hopefully we don't lose those, because it is a really good deal that wrestling fans get. And, we're going to get into the Judgment Day a little bit, but I want to start talking about, the other stable we've talked a lot about tonight is the Usos and Solo Sikoa wrestling Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn, Matt Riddle. There's no championships on the line. It's just 6-man tag. But it's kind of interesting because I keep saying they booked themselves into a hole, because the draft, I honestly just didn't do it for me. But the Usos and Solo Sikoa are drafted to SmackDown. Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn, Matt Riddle are all drafted to Raw. You're not supposed to have any crossovers now. So, but this feud still feels like it has legs. Do you think being drafted to different shows, does this match like end the story between Owens, Zayn, Riddle, and the Bloodline?
I might get some heat for this, but I kind of hope so.
Dominic heat?
Well, maybe. One can only aspire, I just feel like the past 3-4 weeks we've seen the same match over and over and over again. Ever since the Usos dropped their titles, it's like, we want a match back. Okay, well, they do it, they lose. Solo's the only one who's still winning. And it's kind of, I'm kind of getting a little bored of it. But I don't know. Is that fair? Do you think? Is that fair to say? It just feels like every week we're getting an Usos versus,
Somebody.
I'm calling them the Bro Squad. Riddle, Zayn, and Owens. It's just like, I don't know. We're getting the same stuff every week.
Bro, what are you talking about, bro?
Yeah.
I mean, if this is the end, if this is a culmination, and the bloodlines move into SmackDown, and all their stories are going to be SmackDown centric, who wins? Like, who needs this win more?
Well, I could see it going either way, I know the Usos kind of have been chasing, their personality is very much like we the ones, and when you don't have the belts, it's like, well, it's like you can be number 2, but you're not the ones, but I think it's possible that Sami Zayn, Riddle, and Owens lose. I mean, there's not really. It could end the storyline with them. They're not. It's not a. Is it a? For the titles, it's not, right?
No, it's just a 6-man tag.
Yeah, I don't think. I think there's just no real stakes. I think the Usos are looking for their belts, and if they win, they don't get their belts. So.
Yeah. And speaking of, like, I feel like Owens and Zayn are okay because they have the titles. They don't need a win. You could have Riddle, like, lose to Solo or something. But at the same time, the Bloodline's having so many issues. I would be very interested to see the following SmackDown where Roman Reigns addresses the Usos and Solo for losing at Backlash. Don't expect that to be the main event. I expect Rhodes Lesnar to be the main event. But one of the high premier matches on the card is not because they're good wrestlers. Well, one of them is. The other's a celebrity in Puerto Rico. It's Bad Bunny versus Damian Priest in what is being called a San Juan street fight. Chris, what do you expect in this one? And I'll pose this to you. Would it hurt the Judgment Day if Damian Priest lost to Bad Bunny?
Yeah, I think it would. I think the Judgment Day is in a rough spot right now. Finn's most recent match, he lost to Cody Rhodes after he tried to, bring Cody into the Judgment Day. Damian, Rhea, and Dom, they just beat LWO again. I keep hearing on on TikTok and stuff that there's 3 for sure things that always happen: death, taxes, and the LWO losing.
Wow.
It's just every week. It's just anyway. And Rhea hasn't defended her title once. As far as I'm aware. I could be wrong, but I think the last solo match we've seen her in was at WrestleMania.
She tore the house down at WrestleMania.
Sure. Yeah, I agree. But she just hasn't defended the title once. So it's like they need the wins, They could come out of this limping.
And you think they're going to pull the trigger on Damian Priest beating Bad Bunny and getting booed? Could get Dom heat.
It could. I don't know. I'm not like a big Bad Bunny guy. I didn't even know he was like the biggest music guy and music artist in the world. But apparently, I just also don't think there's a ton of overlap between like the Bad Bunny stands and the WWE stands.
Ooh.
It's just like
no.
Yeah, I think they need the win. If they lose, it'll hurt. It'll hurt pretty bad.
Yeah, and it would hurt. And you mentioned Rhea Ripley hasn't defended the title or hasn't had a solo match since WrestleMania, but she does have one this weekend against Zelina Vega. Rhea Ripley, the SmackDown Women's Champion, we talked about it earlier in the show. She is on Monday Night Raw. But Zelina Vega's actually been drafted to SmackDown. That could be a way to get the SmackDown Women's title to Monday Night Raw. Can Zelina Vega pull off the upset and end Rhea's fairy tale run a month into her championship reign?
Man, you call it a reign, but you know,
it's a reign.
I don't know. It's a month long. You know, Roman is he's been reigning for sure
because he's your tribal chief.
Nope, wrong. I think it's a good possibility that Zelina wins. You know, I think there's also a pretty good possibility that Zelina loses. You know, I think Rhea is a phenomenal talent. You know, she's. She dethroned Charlotte Flair. You know, it's like, let her hold on to the belt for a little while, you know, but let her defend the belt, please, please. I'm so tired of these, these superstars getting their championship belt and then holding on to it every week and then not, defending it,
You know who does defend it? Gunther. Gunther's
it's
a great Intercontinental champion.
It's true. You're not wrong. He's like one of the few people who actually defends their title on a semi-weekly basis. It's like it's just I don't know. It's a little annoying. I wish we saw more defense, title defenses.
It makes it a lot more easier to watch when you're like, oh, there's a Raw and hey, the United States title is being defended, or hey, it's SmackDown and the tag titles are getting defended. Like, it gives you more incentive to watch. I feel like that's what AEW does well with, it feels like every week you turn around, there's a title match and you're like, yeah, they probably won't win, but what if they do? And there's always that hook that they get you with, like, they might actually pull the trigger and get this guy in. Now, for me, with the SmackDown Women's title, I feel like they could do something really weird, like Zelina beat Rhea with a roll-up, and then Zelina can't have the Raw Women's title, or Bianca can't have the Raw Women's title, so Bianca versus Zelina to declare a real SmackDown Women's Champion, and then a vacant Raw Women's title goes to Mondays. Again, they book themselves in this corner. Like, they're going to have to get themselves out of it, or they can listen to Drop the Mic Wrestling podcast on the Tobacco Road Sports Radio's YouTube channel and get all of these ideas for free, because you guys actually might need to start paying up. And speaking of Bianca Belair, she is wrestling, defend the Raw Women's title against fellow SmackDown superstar Io Sky. And you mentioned Damage Control maybe splitting. We watched Raw a couple of nights ago, and it still feels like they're teasing a Damage Control split based on jealousy. Do you think cooler heads do not prevail this week, and we see the Damage Control split up after this?
I think it's a possibility. I think if Bianca loses, Io could get a big head and think she's too good for Damage Control. I could see it happening, but I think it's more likely that Bianca keeps her title, and they'll figure out some way to swap the titles. But yeah, I don't know. I just feel like, this I'm just not a huge fan of the Damage Control storyline, to be honest. It's fun. I like the idea of them splitting it up, especially putting more emphasis on each individual, especially Io Sky. She's a great talent. I think she could be a great solo performer, but we'll see.
Man, and I agree with you. Like, Bianca's pretty clear about winning this title, but again, how do you get it to Raw? You could do a title swap, but it's whatever. And another title match that we have, I think we only have 3 title matches this weekend between the SmackDown Women's title, Raw Women's title, and the United States title. Your guy, Austin Theory, A-Town Down, is defending against fellow SmackDown superstar Bobby Lashley. and Raw superstar Bronson Reed in triple threat match. And I was thinking about this. Austin Theory's on SmackDown. Bobby Lashley's on SmackDown. Bronson Reed's on Raw. But the Intercontinental Champion is on Raw. So to me, it doesn't seem like a good idea that Bronson Reed was drafted to Monday Night Raw and you're including him in this match. Because to me, it only feels like Bobby Lashley and Austin Theory actually have the chance to win this Saturday and become the United States champion. What do you think?
I think that it's not going to be a problem. I think, Austin Theory is going to keep the title. I think he's going to, is it one pin? It is, right? I think, I don't see Bronson Reed getting the title, to be honest with you. Bobby Lashley, I think there's a chance, but I think there's a bigger chance of him getting the world heavyweight title later down the line. But yeah, I think it stays with Austin Theory.
You're going for your guy A-Town down on that one?
A week, 2 weeks ago, I was not an Austin Theory fan, but he's kind of blown up. He's definitely a meme on like TikTok and stuff. He's grown on me a lot.
So TikTok had you grow on Austin Theory.
Yep. Hey, who knows? Maybe if I see a lot of Roman Reigns TikToks, maybe eventually I'll swap my allegiance. But
you'll acknowledge you're head of the table finally.
We'll see. We'll see.
Well, you mentioned Austin Theory being a big TikTok, meme sensation right now. And there's another superstar that is a TikTok sensation that you showed me. And that is the most natural way I can segue into this match, because despite contrary belief, I am not an Omos guy. That was for my insider, Matt. He keeps texting me. He's like, no, you're an Omos guy. Like, no, I understand why WWE uses him. And it's literally because he's like 7'4".
He's huge. He's freaking huge.
He's huge. He's not a good wrestler, but not, let's be honest. Aside from the Big Show, not many guys over 7 foot are good wrestlers. Like Undertaker and Kane weren't 7 foot. Big Show was. Big Show's an athlete. Big Show did not get enough credit, in my opinion. But I mean, come on. You really think Andre the Giant, and Mom's going to kill me if she listens to my podcast. She's a big Andre fan because of the Princess Bride. Think if Andre the Giant and Omos swapped eras, that they wouldn't be under the same ridicule. Andre would be like, man, you can't do all these acrobatic, high-flying stuff, and you can't wrestle 40-minute matches. And Omos would be like, oh my gosh, we've never seen him. Like, they were just cursed because of the generation they were born into. But we do have Seth Rollins versus Omos. And I'll be honest, I don't know if anyone cares too much about this match. It was just kind of randomly announced. I think they've only had like one interaction with each other on screen. It doesn't seem like anybody cares about this match, but Seth Rollins, I think, would have to win this match, especially if you're about to put the World Heavyweight title on him. I think we're having some technical difficulties on Chris's end. Chris, are you with us?
Yes. Yeah, sorry about that.
You're good.
Dropping out and in and out. Don't know what's happening. But this match, I'll tell you what, Omos needs this win. If he wants to be taken seriously,
Wow. Chris thinks Omos goes over, or at least needs the win.
Yeah, I don't think Seth Rollins needs this win, I think I think in terms of embarrassment, I think Seth Rollins should win this. And by all means he should win this match. But if you really want to make Omos like more of an actual threat, have him beat Seth freaking Rollins,
Man, that my friends might be drop the mic, and Chris could drop the mic on that one, but that is certainly out of pocket for you who watch the show on Fridays. And I feel like Omos would need the win more to solidify him, but Seth Rollins, if they're about to put the world heavyweight title on him, he needs to win. Like, you can't show up, lose to Omos, and then be like, oh, I'm about to carry the second most important world title. It just, to me, it would come across really weird. Again, booking yourselves into another corner. That's why we're doing the Book It Better segment, because they can base off of what Chris and I do. Yeah, we can book it better if that is well. But we have a few more minutes left, and we have yet to talk about perhaps the main event: Cody Rhodes, your guy, versus Brock Lesnar in San Juan, Puerto Rico. It feels like they're recycling a storyline with John Cena losing to The Rock, and then the next night he's attacked by Brock Lesnar, and then they wrestle at the latest pay-per-view. And it feels like that's the route they're going with Cody Rhodes, trying to build him back up. What are your thoughts on the way they got here to this match? And who do you ultimately think wins?
Sorry, dude. I have no idea what's going on with the internet right now. I think Cody's, it's tough to say, I would, if they're recycling the storyline, I hope we end up in the same place Cena did, but if they are recycling it, it's pretty easy to just change the ending, I think I would love Cody to win. He needs to win this if he wants to be taken seriously. If not, he loses all momentum. Who's to say? I think it'd be yeah, I don't know. It seems like after WrestleMania, I've convinced myself, I think, that this is good. This is, maybe Roman should have, won that match. Maybe we're about to see, Cody come back, climb that mountain, really just, earn that title, those titles. And Brock Lesnar's, I think he's a boulder in the way, and you can't lose momentum. You lose all interest if you lose to Brock Lesnar,
And that's what Cody was saying on Monday Night Raw. Do you think Cody ends up winning?
Yeah, I think so. I think realistically, he's going to win the match. He's got to keep his heat, so to speak. He's got to keep moving forward, and I don't think he's lost a match since. I think he's only had that Finn Balor match since WrestleMania. But yeah, man, he's got to keep moving forward, and a lost Brock Lesnar is the opposite of that.
And that's what purpose of a Brock Lesnar serves these guys, is like building these stars. And if Cody's supposed to be the flagship guy, he's supposed to carry the Raw brand and, eventually meet up with Roman Reigns to finish the story and get the title that his father never did. This is the opportunity. This is what you need to do. But it looks like we are out of time on this Wrestling Wednesday lineup. You could have listened to Ryan Frick on Tap Outs and Touchdowns. There's a couple other wrestling podcasts on. We also released the Cat Cave, I believe, today, the Carolina Panthers podcast that Ryan and I do. And Chris, thank you so much for stopping by for your very first time on the Drop the Mic Wrestling podcast. We'll have to do this again, do some more Book It Bear segments, and definitely if Cody Rhodes ends up losing this Saturday to Brock Lesnar, we might get you back on.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me. I hope, I'm praying that Cody wins. assuming Triple H, does his job. Hopefully Cody's heat will remain and his momentum will keep moving forward. But yeah, thanks for having me on. I apologize for all the internet issues, but yeah, I had a great time. Always love talking wrestling with you.
And we'll do it a lot more too, both on camera and off camera.
For sure.
Chris and I got some exciting stuff, but we got to get out of here. You got to make sure you subscribe to the Tobacco Road Sports Traders YouTube channel, because Out of Pocket with Michael Davis this Friday will be live at 4 p.m. You're not going to want to miss this. You're not going to want to miss future episodes of the Drop the Mic Wrestling podcast, other wrestling pods, other sports pods. There's the Believe in Panthers podcast with Jonathan Stewart, Skylar Callahan, Desmond Johnson. And you're not going to want to miss any of this content, but no matter whatever you do, don't drop the mic. We will see you all next week.